Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the latest political news, analysis, and commentary from South Africa and beyond. If you're passionate about staying informed, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's dive straight into today's major development. South Africans have received some unexpected but welcome news. Just days before a planned increase in value-added tax, or VAT, was scheduled to come into effect on the 1st of May, the courts have stepped in and issued an urgent order suspending the hike. This decision has thrown the government's fiscal plans into disarray and sparked widespread celebration among consumer groups and opposition parties alike. The ruling came after an urgent application brought by the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, and the Democratic Alliance, the DA. Both parties challenged the legality of the VAT increase, arguing that it was not only ill-conceived but also procedurally flawed. The court agreed, delivering a scathing judgment that found that the Minister of Finance's decision to push ahead with the VAT hike was invalid. But the court didn't stop there. It went even further, setting aside Parliament's approval of the fiscal framework that underpinned the VAT increase. In a highly unusual and significant move, the court also ordered the Ministry of Finance and Parliament to pay the legal costs incurred by the EFF and the DA. That's a clear indication of just how seriously the judiciary viewed the flaws in the government's process. This ruling means that, for now, South Africans will not be subjected to higher VAT rates as previously announced. Originally, the increase was meant to generate billions of rands in much-needed revenue to help address South Africa's widening budget deficit. However, critics argued that hiking VAT, which affects all consumers regardless of income, would have had devastating consequences for ordinary citizens already battling high unemployment, rising food prices, and relentless cost-of-living pressures. Consumer advocacy groups wasted no time in celebrating the ruling, saying it would spare millions of households from further financial pain. In many quarters, the VAT hike was seen as yet another instance of the government shifting the burden of poor economic management onto the shoulders of ordinary South Africans, while failing to tackle systemic issues like corruption, inefficiency, and wasteful expenditure. The court's judgment specifically highlighted concerns over procedural irregularities. It found that there had been a lack of meaningful consultation with stakeholders before the decision to raise VAT was finalized. Public participation is a fundamental cornerstone of our democracy, and when it's ignored, especially on matters as impactful as national taxation, it erodes trust between government and the people. It's worth remembering that VAT is a regressive tax, meaning it disproportionately affects lower-income individuals, who spend a greater share of their income on taxable goods and services. When VAT goes up, the poor feel it first and feel it the hardest. This made the absence of adequate public consultation not just a legal technicality, but a serious moral failing on the part of policymakers. At this stage, the Ministry of Finance has not yet officially indicated whether it will appeal the court's ruling. However, sources suggest that urgent high-level meetings are already underway to decide the next steps. Some insiders are warning that if the ruling stands, the government will have to scramble to find alternative ways to plug the budget hole left by the abandoned VAT increase. Economists are warning of serious consequences. Without the additional billions in revenue that the VAT hike was expected to bring, Treasury may be forced to revise its budgetary projections. This could mean cuts to key public services or even higher borrowing at a time when South Africa's debt levels are already dangerously high. It could also trigger renewed pressure from international ratings agencies, who have repeatedly flagged the country's fiscal position as a major risk. At the same time, there's growing political pressure on the government to find alternative solutions that do not place the heaviest burdens on the most vulnerable citizens. Opposition parties have long argued that instead of raising VAT, the government should focus on cutting unnecessary expenditure, rooting out corruption, and improving the efficiency of state-owned enterprises. This court victory has also given a major boost to the EFF and the DA ahead of the upcoming elections. Both parties will now be able to claim that they successfully defended ordinary South Africans from an unjust tax increase. For the ANC-led government, however, this is an embarrassing setback, a reminder that even with a parliamentary majority, there are legal limits to executive power. More broadly, this case raises important questions about the state of governance in South Africa. Why did the government push through such a significant tax increase without proper consultation? Was it arrogance, desperation, or simply incompetence? And what does this mean for future attempts at tax reform, especially in a political environment where public trust is already at a low ebb? The VAT judgment might also embolden other groups to challenge controversial government decisions in court. We could be entering a new era of legal activism, where civil society organizations, opposition parties, and even private citizens become more willing to use the courts to hold the state accountable. Given South Africa's proud tradition of constitutional democracy, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does point to an increasingly confrontational and litigious political atmosphere. As for the ordinary South African, for now at least, it's a small victory in the larger battle to keep the cost of living manageable. But the broader structural problems facing the economy remain unresolved. Without decisive action to fix them, future VAT increases, or other forms of tax hikes, might just be a matter of time. We will be keeping a close eye on how the government responds in the coming days. Will they accept the ruling and look for other solutions? Will they lodge an urgent appeal? Will they reintroduce the VAT hike later in the year after following proper procedures? These are crucial questions that could have lasting impacts on South Africa's economy, politics, and society. And that brings us to the end of today's update. What are your thoughts on the court's decision to block the VAT increase? Do you think it's a victory for ordinary citizens? Or are you worried about what it means for the country's already fragile public finances? Let us know your views in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more updates on South African politics and economic news, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, see you next time.